The rain hammered the church roof like God's own fury, drowning out the priest's eulogy as Justin's casket gleamed under the stained-glass glow of saints who never judged. Brandon gripped the pew until his knuckles bleached white, the scent of wet wool and lilies choking him, while across the aisle, Elias, Justin's widower, cradled their 2-year-old son, Alex, whose tiny sobs echoed like accusations in the silence. In that moment, as lightning cracked the sky, Brandon realized the twin he'd buried wasn't just flesh and blood anymore. It was the hole in his soul, yawning wide enough to swallow him whole. The storm outside St. Mary's in Brooklyn matched the one raging in Brandon's chest, a tempest he'd brewed himself over the years with barbs sharper than any thunderbolt. He hadn't spoken to Justin in 5 years, not since that Christmas Eve blowout in their childhood home in Queens, when Brandon, 3 whiskeys deep, had sneered at his brother's trembling confession. "You're choosing this? Some fairy tale bullshit over family?" The words had flown like shrapnel, embedding deep, and Justin had walked out into the snow without a coat. His blue eyes, mirror images of Brandon's, glazed with a hurt that no apology could unearth. Now, at 32, Brandon sat in the back row, his broad shoulders hunched under a rumpled black suit that smelled faintly of the construction site he'd abandoned that morning. The foreman had given him the call at dawn. "Your brother's gone. Car accident. Elias is a mess." Brandon had driven straight from the skeletal frame of a high-rise in Manhattan, the wipers slapping rhythmically against the windshield, each beat a reminder of the miles he'd put between them. Queens to Brooklyn was only 20 minutes, but the chasm? That was a goddamn Grand Canyon. The priest droned on about eternal light and forgiveness, but Brandon's gaze locked on Elias. Tall, wiry, with that mop of dark curls Justin had always envied. Elias rocked Alex gently, the boy's chubby fists clutching a stuffed elephant, Justin's favorite toy from their shared nursery days. Alex looked just like them. Same tousled blonde hair, same dimpled chin. But his eyes, wide and bewildered, were all Elias, deep brown pools that had first caught Justin's heart at a pride parade 5 years back. Brandon remembered that day vividly, not because he'd been there, but because Justin had called him from the float, voice buzzing with joy over the roar of the crowd. "Brandon, man, it's like fireworks in my veins. I met someone. His name's Elias. You'll love him." Brandon had grunted into the phone from a dive bar in Midtown, nursing a beer after a brutal shift. "Sounds like a headache, Jay. Don't drag that rainbow crap into our lives." He'd hung up, dismissing it as another phase, like the time Justin tried out for drama club in high school and Brandon called him a theater fag to his face, laughing with their old man to cover the squirm in his gut. Their father, Big Mike, had been the blueprint for Brandon's bullshit. A burly Irish-American cop who'd patrolled the streets of Flushing until a heart attack dropped him at 58. Mike had raised them on stoic silences and backhanded affection. Men don't cry, boys. And they sure as hell don't prance. When Justin came out at 18, fresh off a summer job at Coney Island where he'd kissed a lifeguard under the boardwalk lights, Mike's response was a slammed door and a week of frozen dinners. Brandon, 19 and cocky, had piled on. "Come on, Dad. It's just Justin being dramatic. He'll snap out of it." But deep down, he'd envied his twin's courage. The way Justin owned his skin while Brandon hid behind bravado and a string of one-night stands that left him emptier than before. The service ended in a blur of handshakes and murmured condolences. Brandon hung back, watching as Elias gathered Alex's things, a sippy cup, a crumpled drawing of a rainbow elephant. The church emptied into the drizzle, umbrellas blooming like black mushrooms, and Brandon finally approached, his boots scuffing the marble floor. "Elias," he said, voice rough as gravel. "I'm sorry for everything." Elias turned, his face a mask of grief, pale skin stretched tight over high cheekbones, lips pressed thin. He was a graphic designer, Brandon recalled from a forgotten Facebook stalk, the kind of guy who wore ironic tees and volunteered at animal shelters. In his arms, Alex whimpered, burying his face in Elias's neck. "Brandon." Elias's tone was neutral, laced with the faint lilt of his Chicago roots. "He'd want you here. That's what matters." But it didn't. Not when Brandon's last words to Justin had been a voicemail deleted in a fit of rage. "Stay the fuck out of my life. You and your little boyfriend. We're done." It was after Justin announced his engagement, a small ceremony planned at City Hall with just close friends. Brandon had crashed the family dinner to talk sense into him, ending with a shove that sent plates shattering. Justin hadn't fought back. He just looked at Brandon like he was seeing a stranger. And then he was gone, radio silence, blocked numbers, a new life in Brooklyn with Elias and, eventually, Alex, born via surrogate because, as Justin texted their mom once before going dark on the family group chat, "This kid's gonna know love without limits." Their mother, Maureen, sat a few pews away, dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief. She was the soft counterpoint to Mike's hardness, a nurse who'd bandaged knees and hearts with equal tenderness. She'd tried bridging the gap, sending Brandon photos of Justin's art shows. He'd become a painter, capturing the grit and glitter of New York in oils that sold for thousands, or updates on the pregnancy. Brandon deleted them all, telling himself it was pride, not pain. Now, as the pallbearers lifted the casket, Brandon stepped forward. "Let me help carry him." Elias hesitated, then nodded. "He'd hate us fighting over this." The weight of the oak was nothing compared to the lead in Brandon's veins. They stepped into the hearse procession, rain sluicing down windshields, and for the first time, Brandon let himself remember the good, the treehouse forts in their backyard, stealing smokes from Dad's pack, whispering secrets under the covers about girls they'd never kissed. Justin had always been the dreamer, sketching superheroes with capes that fluttered like flags of freedom. Brandon, the doer, building the worlds Justin imagined. Twins, inseparable. Until Brandon built a wall instead. At the gravesite in Greenwood Cemetery, under oaks stripped bare by November wind, they lowered Justin into the earth. Elias placed a single red rose on the lid, whispering, "I love you, babe." "Raise hell up there." Alex, sensing the finality, wailed, and Brandon, unthinking, reached out, scooping the boy into his arms. Alex stiffened at first, then clutched Brandon's collar, his tiny heartbeat thundering against Brandon's chest like a plea. In that instant, something cracked. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a fissure wide enough for light to seep in. The wake was at Elias's brownstone in Park Slope, a cozy row house crammed with mismatched furniture and walls alive with Justin's paintings. Vibrant abstracts of skyline silhouettes bleeding into ocean waves, lovers entwined in shadow and gold. Neighbors milled about, artsy types with tattoos and piercings, a few queer couples holding hands unselfconsciously, offering casseroles and hugs. Brandon hovered on the periphery, nursing a lukewarm beer, Alex now dozing in a playpen amid the murmur of voices. Maureen pulled him aside into the kitchen, her eyes red-rimmed but fierce. "You gonna fix this, Bran? Or let it bury you too?" He shrugged, staring at the fridge magnet shaped like the Statue of Liberty, a souvenir from their childhood trip to the ferry. "What if it's too late?" Ma pushed him away, mocked him, called him things I'm ashamed of. She cupped his face, thumbs brushing stubble. "Ashamed's a start." Justin forgave easier than most. But Elias, that man's holding our boys' world together with spit and prayers. "You want in? Earn it." Across the room, Elias caught his eye, a silent question in that steady gaze. Brandon nodded, setting down the bottle. He crossed the floor, kneeling by the playpen. Alex stirred, blinking up with those mismatched eyes. Justin's blue, Elias's depth. "Hey, buddy," Brandon murmured, voice cracking. "I'm your Uncle B. I should have been around sooner." Alex reached out a sticky hand, patting Brandon's cheek. And just like that, the fissure widened. But redemption wasn't a straight shot. It was a detour through hell. That night, alone in his cramped Astoria apartment, walls thin enough to hear the neighbors' arguments, floor littered with takeout boxes, Brandon pulled out the box he'd stashed under his bed. Photos. Mostly him and Justin at 8. Gap-toothed grins in Little League uniforms. At 16, arms slung around each other at prom. Justin's date a beard named Sarah. Brandon's oblivious to the ache in his twin's laugh. A letter, too, from Justin, dated 3 years back. Postmark Brooklyn. "Bran, I get it. Your dad 2.0. Scared of what you don't understand. But this life, Elias, the art, the quiet Sundays at the farmer's market, it's real. Messy, yeah, but mine. If you ever want to meet halfway, the door's open. Alex is due in June. Imagine teaching him to throw a curveball. Love always, even when it hurts. J. Brandon hadn't replied. Burned it instead. Ashes scattered in the East River during a hungover jog. Now, the memory clawed at him, regret a live wire under his skin. Days blurred into a week. Brandon showed up at the brownstone unannounced. First with coffee from the corner bodega, then tools to fix the squeaky back door Justin had complained about in voicemails Brandon never returned. Elias accepted warily, but Alex, the kid latched on like a barnacle, demanding piggyback rides and stories about Uncle Unca's big trucks. One evening, as snow dusted the stoop, Elias invited Brandon in for dinner. Spaghetti carbonara, Justin's recipe, creamy with pecorino and a kick of black pepper. They ate at the scarred oak table, Alex smearing sauce on his highchair tray, babbling about wheels and paints. "You're good with him," Elias said, twirling pasta. "Justin always said you'd be the fun uncle." Barbecues in the yard, teaching him to fish off the pier. Brandon's throat tightened. "I don't deserve that memory." Elias set down his fork, eyes softening. "None of us deserve this." But Justin, he loved hard, forgave harder. He talked about you all the time. You know, how you'd build forts that withstood hurricanes. How he wished you'd see past the noise. The noise. The slurs Brandon had hurled in dark moments. The eye rolls at pride flags on TV. The silence when Maureen begged him to attend the wedding. It was fear, bone deep, of a world that might label him too if he softened. Straight, sure, But what if empathy made him suspect? Mike's ghost loomed large. Real men stand firm. After dinner, with Alex tucked in, they sat on the fire escape, city lights twinkling like distant promises. Elias lit a joint, medicinal, he explained, for the grief gnawing his edges, and passed it. Brandon took a drag, coughing, the smoke curling into questions. "Tell me about him," Brandon said. "The last years. The ones I missed." Elias exhaled slow, smoke wreathing his face. "He was electric. After you too. Drifted. He threw himself into painting. Met me at that parade. I was handing out flyers for an LGBTQ youth center. He bought me a hot dog, said my smile lit up the floats. We fought like hell sometimes. He was stubborn, wanted everything perfect. But the making up, God, Brandon. It was like coming home." Brandon listened, the joint burning low, as Elias painted pictures. Lazy mornings in bed with coffee and crosswords, the Saget's ultrasound where Justin wept like a baby, Alex's first steps across the living room rug. Laughter wove through the pain, Justin's voice in Elias's stories a lifeline pulling Brandon from the deep. But shadows lingered. "He missed you," Elias admitted. "Wrote letters he never sent. Wanted you at the birth, at the shows. Said you were his other half, even if you hated the half he showed." Tears stung Brandon's eyes, hot and unbidden. He wiped them on his sleeve, mumbling, "I was an asshole." "Worse." Elias clapped a hand on his shoulder. Firm. "Were. Past tense. Show up now. For Alex. For him." As Brandon left, the door clicking soft behind him, he glanced back at the painting over the mantel. Two silhouettes against a sunset bridge, hands clasped. Brooklyn Bridge, their boyhood dare, racing across at dusk, hearts pounding. Justin had captured it, love in every stroke. In his truck, engine rumbling to life, Brandon whispered to the empty cab, "I'm trying, Jay. God help me, I'm trying." Winter clamped down on New York like a vice, turning the streets into icy veins pulsing with hurried commuters. Brandon threw himself into the routine, showing up at the brownstone 3 nights a week, dinners that stretched into bedtime rituals, where he'd read Goodnight Moon in a gravelly baritone that sent Alex into giggles. Elias watched, thawing by degrees, sharing glances that held less suspicion and more solidarity. It was fragile, this triad forming in Justin's absence, but it beat the void. Work kept Brandon grounded, or at least distracted. As a site supervisor for a luxury condo build in Chelsea, he barked orders at crews in hard hats, the clang of steel beams a symphony of control. But now, cracks showed. He'd zone out mid-meeting, staring at the skyline, wondering if Justin had painted this view, the spires piercing clouds like prayers unanswered. His second-in-command, Rico, a burly Dominican with a mustache like a broom, noticed. "You good, Chief? Look like you seen a ghost." "Lost one," Brandon grunted, hammering a nail with unnecessary force. "Family shit," Rico nodded, wise to the unspoken. "Family's a bitch. Mine disowned my sister for marrying a gringo. Took years, but blood pulls you back. Always does." That night, Brandon arrived at Elias's with a pizza, pepperoni for him, vegan for Elias and Alex, and a 6-pack of IPA. The boy barreled into his legs, yelling Unca B, pizza party. Elias scooped Alex up, planting a kiss on his curls. And for a second, Brandon glimpsed the life they'd built. Chaotic, colorful, unapologetically theirs. Over slices at the coffee table, TV murmuring a Knicks game, Elias broached the will. Justin's lawyer called. Readings next week. He left things for you. Brandon's stomach nodded. Like what? Guilt trip. Elias chuckled. Soft. His brushes. And a letter. Said you'd know what to do with them. The game blurred on screen. Scores irrelevant. Justin painting? Brandon had mocked that too, wasting time on doodles when you could build something real. But now, holding one of the sable brushes Elias handed him later, his handle worn smooth, Brandon felt the ghost of his twin's grip. The letter was in an envelope sealed with wax, stamped with a tiny rainbow. Bran, if you're reading this, I'm probably off chasing sunsets you never believed in. These brushes, they're for the forts we built now in color, not just wood. Paint something. Yeah, Alex. Whatever scares you most. Forgive yourself first. I did. He didn't cry, not then. Folded it away, but the words burrowed. Weeks passed. Snow piling high. Brandon invited them to Maureen's for Christmas Eve. The old Victorian in Queens strung with lights that twinkled like hesitant stars. Maureen fussed over Alex, baking gingerbread men with lopsided smiles, while Brandon strung garland, pricked fingers on pine needles. Elias hung back at first, but warmed when Maureen pulled out photo albums, Justin's school plays, Brandon's football trophies, the twins at 10, faces smeared with birthday cake. Look at you two, she sighed, tracing their grins. Inseparable, until they weren't. The elephant in the room lumbered in with eggnog. When Uncle Pat, Dad's old partner, a retired detective with a gut and a grudge, clapped Brandon on the back. Heard about Justin. Tough break. But hey, kid always was. Different. You do right cutting that noise out. Elias stiffened across the room, Alex on his hip. Brandon's blood boiled, old reflexes warring with new resolve. Shut your mouth, Pat. He was my brother. Better man than you'll ever be. The room hushed, Maureen's eyes wide. Pat sputtered, red-faced, but slunk off to the den. Elias met Brandon's gaze, a nod of thanks, and later, as they cleared plates, murmured, "That took guts." "Not guts," Brandon said, stacking dishes. Just tired of being the asshole. New Year's brought a shift. The city erupted in confetti and cheers, but at the brownstone, it was quiet. Fireworks viewed from the roof. Alex bundled in a snowsuit, pointing at bursts of color. Elias popped champagne, non-alcoholic for old time's sake, and they toasted to Justin, to Alex, to whatever this is. Under the strobe of distant explosions, Elias leaned close, breath warm. He'd be proud, you know, of this. Brandon's heart stuttered. Not attraction, but something deeper, a bridge of shared loss. Miss him like hell. Me too. Elias's hand brushed his. Accidental, but lingering. But we're not alone. Spring thawed the ice, revealing potholes and possibility. Brandon took Alex to the park, pushing swings while Elias sketched on a bench. The boy laughed, wind tousling his hair, and Brandon caught himself thinking, this could be mine. Not ownership, but belonging. But conflict brewed. At the sight, A beam collapsed, minor, no injuries, but enough to trigger an investigation. OSHA breathing down his neck. Brandon worked 18-hour days, snapping at the crew. He missed 2 dinners at the brownstone. Text to Elias Kurt. Swamped. Rain check. Elias called one night. Voice edged. Alex asks for you. We need consistency. Brandon. Not vanishing X. I know. Guilt nod. Just. Give me time. Time's what we don't have. Click. The accusation landed like a gut punch. Brandon showed up the next evening, exhausted, bearing apology donuts. Elias let him in, but tension hummed. Over bath time, Alex splashing bubbles, Brandon on towel duty, Elias cornered him in the hall. This isn't pity playtime, Elias said, arms crossed. Justin's gone. Alex needs a father figure, not a ghost who dips in and out. Brandon recoiled. I'm trying. Damn it. You think this is easy? Digging up my shit. Easy. Elias's laugh was bitter. I buried my husband. Watch our son cry for a dad he'll never know. You're not the only one hurting. The words ignited old fuses. Maybe if Justin hadn't gone full rainbow warrior, shoving it in everyone's face. Elias's eyes flashed. There it is. The real Brandon. Mocking from the grave. Brandon's fist clenched. But he saw Justin's face in Alex's tub toys. Heard the letters echo. Forgive yourself. He exhaled. Deflating. Shit. I'm sorry. Fear. Elias. Not hate. Elias softened, shoulders dropping. Then fight it. For him. For us. They hugged then. Awkward. Backslapping, Alex's giggles the soundtrack. But the seed of doubt sprouted. Was Brandon in too deep? Rewriting history for a family not his? The climax brewed in May, when Justin's art gallery hosted a posthumous show. Echoes, it was called Canvases of Memory, priced to fund Alex's trust. Elias begged Brandon to come. Stand with me. Show the world Justin's legacy. Brandon agreed, suit pressed, nerves jangling. The space in Soho buzzed. Critics in black turtlenecks. Collectors with checkbooks. Queer icons toasting with flutes of Prosecco. Elias, dashing in a velvet jacket, introduced Brandon as Justin's twin, his first muse, the star piece, Twins at Dusk, a massive oil of 2 boys on the Brooklyn Bridge, one turning away, the other reaching. The plaque read, For B, may you cross back. Tears pricked as applause swelled. But then, betrayal's blade slipped in. A man approached, tall, silver fox handsome, voice like aged bourbon. Elias, darling. Stunning show. Victor, Elias said, stiffening. Didn't expect you. Victor, Justin's mentor, gallery owner, whispers of more in art circle gossip. I mentored him, you know. Pushed for this life. His gaze slid to Brandon, praising. The straight twin. Justin spoke of you fondly, despite the rift. Brandon bristled, but Victor pressed on, hand lingering on Elias's arm. If you need support, financial, emotional, my door's open. For Alex, the implication hung, a safety net, strings attached. Elias pulled away politely, but later, in the green room, confessed over coffee. Victor was there, before me. Helped Justin come out, funded early shows. But it's history. Jealousy flared in Brandon. Not romantic, but protective. He wants back in. Don't let him. Elias's smile was sad. It's not that simple. Money's tight. The surrogate fees. Funeral. I'm drowning. Brandon's mind raced. Let me help. Loans. Whatever. No charity. Elias's tone sharpened. We do this clean. The argument escalated as closing neared. Voices low but heated. You're pushing me out again, Elias accused. Just like you did Justin. Afraid of the mess. I am the mess, Brandon roared, then clamped shut. Gallery quieted. A critic glanced over. Elias's face crumpled. Go, then. We don't need saving. Brandon stormed out into the spring night, rain slicking Soho's cobblestones. He drove to the bridge, tires humming, parking at the pedestrian walk. Wind whipped the East River below, and he screamed into it. Rage at Justin for leaving, at Elias for needing, at himself for failing. Hours later, voicemail from Elias. Alex had a nightmare. Asked for you. Come back. He did. Dawn breaking. Finding them asleep on the couch. Elias curled around Alex. Photo of Justin on the table. Brandon sank beside them, head in hands. I can't lose this too. Elias stirred, eyes heavy-lidded. Then stay. Fight with us, not against. In that vulnerability, romance flickered, not between them, but in the quiet love they'd forge. Brothers in grief, guardians entwined. Summer scorched the city, humidity turning brownstones into saunas. But the heat in the brownstone was of a different kind, simmering tension laced with tentative trust. Brandon moved in officially after the gallery blowout. Not with fanfare but a duffel bag and a promise. I'm all in. Elias, ever the pragmatist, set ground rules over iced tea on the stoop. No smoking inside. Equal chores. Therapy for all mandatory. Twice monthly. Therapy was Brandon's undoing at first. Dr. Lena, a no-nonsense shrink in a Chelsea walk-up with plants overtaking every surface, peeled him like an onion. Why the mockery? Brandon? Fear of your own desires? Or his freedom? He squirmed on the leather couch. Alex's crayons scattered from a prior session. Both. Maybe. Dad hammered it in. Men are one way. Justin broke the mold. Made me feel small. Small how? Her pen poised. Gentle prod. Like if I accepted him, I'd have to question everything. The jobs, the girls, the armor. He thought of Sarah. His high school sweetheart, sweet, safe, but fizzled after college when she called him out. You're in love with your routines, not me. Since then, hookups in Jersey motels, names forgotten by morning. Across town, Elias's sessions focused on widow's fog, the ache of empty bed, the guilt of moving on. Justin's ghost is everywhere, he told Dr. Lena. In Alex's laugh, Brandon's eyes. But living feels like betrayal. It's not, she assured. It's honoring. Joint sessions were fireworks. Brandon admitting slurs born of envy. He lived loud. I hid. Elias venting resentment. You abandoned him when he needed family most. Alex, oblivious, built block towers in the corner, toppling them with glee. Yet progress bloomed. Weekends became rituals. Coney Island, where Brandon hoisted Alex on the Wonder Wheel, Elias snapping photos like Justin once did. Higher. Unca. The boy squealed, wind tangling his hair. At Nathan's, slurping dogs under the cyclone's roar, Elias leaned into Brandon's shoulder. Feels like old times. Justin would have loved this. Brandon's arm stayed, a casual anchor. He is. Right here. Romance wove in subtly, not the grand gestures of Hollywood, but American grit. Late-night runs to Duane Reade for teething gel. Elias's hand steadying Brandon during a panic attack triggered by a construction crane's groan, echoing the crash that took Justin. One muggy July night, after Alex crashed post-park, they cracked open a bottle of Justin's favorite Cabernet on the fire escape, stars smudged by light pollution. To second chances, Elias toasted, glasses clinking. Brandon sipped, warmth spreading. You ever think about more? Dating? Elias's laugh was rueful. Thought about it. Victor's been texting subtle offers. But Alex. This. He gestured between them. It's enough. For now. The now hung. Charged. Brandon nodded, pulse quickening, not lust, but a pull toward this patchwork family, threads of Justin binding them. But betrayal loomed, sharp as a summer storm. It struck in August, during a heat wave that shut down the site. Brandon, restless, rifled through Elias's desk for bills, wanting to surprise with paid stacks. Instead, he found letters, Victor's, typed on gallery letterhead. Elias, my offer stands, full scholarship for Alex's future, in exchange for partnership. Not just business. We both miss him, but life moves. Let me help you move too. Then, Elias's replies, tentative at first, appreciate it, but no. Then warmer coffee? For old times? Alex is napping Saturday. Brandon's vision tunneled. Dates? With the mentor who'd pushed Justin into this world. The same world Brandon had scorned? He confronted Elias that evening. Letters clutched like evidence in a trial. What the hell is this? Voice thunderous, echoing off kitchen tiles. Elias, chopping veggies for stir-fry, froze. Brandon, coffee? Partnership? You're whoring out Justin's memory for a checkbook. The knife clattered. Elias whirled, face ashen. Fuck you. It's survival. Rents tripled. Alex's preschool waitlist. Victor's a lifeline. Not a lover. Liar. Brandon flung the letters. You wrote back. Flirty. Like you did with Justin. Elias's eyes blazed. Hurt twisting to fury. Jealous? Of what? Me living while you play house. You cut Justin off. Don't cut me now. The words eviscerated. Alex toddled in, sensing storm, and wailed. Brandon scooped him, but Elias snatched back. Out. Now. Brandon fled to the street, August air thick as regret. He drove aimlessly over the bridge, past the gallery, ending at a bar in Hell's Kitchen where leathers and laughter drowned doubt. 2 beers in. A guy sidled up, cute, tattooed, all easy smiles. Buy you one. Brandon almost said yes, escape in anonymity. But Justin's letter burned in his pocket. Paint something that scares you. He left cash, walked out into neon haze. Dawn found him on the brownstone steps, head in hands. Elias opened the door, weary. You came back. Always do. Sorry. Projected. Fear you'd leave. Like he did. Elias sighed, pulling him inside. I'm not Justin. But I need you. We both do. Over coffee, black, bitter, they unpacked. Victor was a buffer against loneliness. Nothing more. One coffee. Awkward as hell. Told him no. Relief flooded Brandon. Good. Because this. He waved at the cluttered living room. Alex's toys strewn like confetti. This is home. Elias's hand covered his. Squeeze firm. Yeah. It is. Fall crept in. Leaves carpeting Prospect Park in crimson and gold. Brandon enrolled in an art class at the Y, night sketching rebar and rivets, channeling Justin's ghost into graphite. His first piece, two bridges converging, figures mid-cross. Elias framed it beside twins at dusk. But the real climax crested in October, when Maureen's health scare hit, a fall down the basement stairs, hip shattered, hospital lights harsh as interrogations. Cancer, the doc said later, stage 2, treatable but terrifying. Brandon and Elias tag-teamed, Brandon handling Maureen's discharge, Elias the emotional scaffolding. In her hospital room, tubes snaking, Maureen gripped their hands. My boys. Justin's watching, you know. Smiling, Brandon choked up. We fucked up plenty. Ma, she winked, frail but fierce. Then unfuck it. Love's the only fix. Discharge day. Victor appeared, uninvited, bearing orchids. Heard about Maureen. Thought I'd. Support. Elias's jaw tightened. Brandon stepped forward, chest out. We got this. Family does. Victor's smile faltered. Family? You? The brother who was an idiot? Brandon cut in. But learning. Leave the flowers. Go. Victor left, tail between legs. And in the elevator, Elias high-fived Brandon. Hero moment. Nah. Team effort. Back home, with Maureen settled in the guest room, they collapsed on the couch, Alex between them, frozen flickering. Elias's head lolled on Brandon's shoulder. We're okay, he murmured. Brandon kissed his temple, brotherly, profound. Better than, yet doubt whispered. Was this sustainable? Brandon's lease loomed, Elias's walls mending but thin. One night, post-therapy, Elias dropped the bomb. Job offer. Chicago. Victor pulled strings, better pay, queer-friendly firm. Brandon's world tilted. Leave? Now. It's home. My folks miss Alex. And space. To grieve without leaning. Betrayal stung anew. Not Victor's, but fate's. You're running. From us. Elias's eyes welled. From dependency. Justin hated it. Needing anyone too much. Fight for this. Then. Brandon's voice broke. Alex needs his uncles. I need. You. Silence stretched. Heavy. Then Elias nodded. Table it. For now. But the seed rooted. Conflict coiling like smoke. November winds howled through the canyons of Manhattan, stripping trees bare and Brandon's illusions thinner. Maureen's chemo started, balding her silver curls, but not her spirit, and the brownstone became a command center. 4 poles in the dining room, Alex's finger paints doubling as distraction therapy. Brandon juggled site deadlines with midnight runs to the all-night pharmacy. Elias coordinating with hospice nurses while sketching logos for freelance gigs. It was a ballet of exhaustion, steps synced by necessity, But the Chicago offer gnawed like a persistent itch. Elias brought it up over Thanksgiving turkey. Maureen insisting on hosting, propped in bed with a bib of napkins. Pass the gravy. Love, she teased Alex, who giggled gravy smeared. But under the table, Elias's knee bounced against Brandon's. Morse code for talk later. After pie, with Alex napping and Maureen dozing to jeopardy, they escaped to the backyard, once Justin's studio, now a leaf-strewn patio with easel ghosts. It's 6 figures, Elias said, breath fogging. Benefits. A fresh start, lakeside walks, my sister's babysitting. Brandon leaned on the fence. City hum distant. And us? What are we? Elias? Side project. Hurt flickered. Family. But not everything. Justin was my anchor. You're the rope thrown after. The metaphor landed soft, but stung. So cut it? Sail off. Elias cupped his neck, thumb tracing jaw. I'm scared of loving this too much, then losing. Brandon pulled him close, foreheads touching. Then don't. Stay. Build. Lips brushed. Not quite a kiss, but electric. A spark of what-ifs. They parted, unspoken, as Alex's cry summoned them back. December deepened the divide. Brandon's art class culminated in a student show. His piece, Convergence, sold to a collector for $500. Elias beamed at the opening, toasting with plastic cups of Chardonnay. Justin's proud. I feel it, but Victor crashed the after-party, champagne flute in hand. Impressive, Brandon. Didn't know you had it in you. His eyes on Elias. Missed my invite? Elias's smile was steel. Private affair. Victor lingered, schmoozing, then cornered Brandon by the hors d'oeuvres. Word of advice. Brother in spirit, Elias needs stability. Chicago's that. You're volatile. Fuck off, Brandon growled. Low. Your stability comes with strings. Victor smirked. Jealousy doesn't suit you. He confided in me, your blow-ups, the mockery. Justin deserved better. So does Alex. The barb hooked deep. Brandon shoved past, finding Elias amid admirers. We leaving, in the cab home, silence thick. What did he say? Elias finally asked. Truth. I'm no saint. Brandon stared out at twinkling storefronts. You go if it's right. But know this. I'm not cutting ties again. Elias's hand found his, squeezed desperate. Don't make me choose. Christmas Eve mirrored the storm of years past. Snow blanketing Queens. Maureen's tree aglow. But this time, Brandon strung lights with Alex on his shoulders. Elias untangling cords with a laugh that echoed Justin's. Gifts piled. A toy truck for Alex, Brandon's pick. Sketch pads for Elias, Maureen's. A leather-bound journal for Brandon inscribed Paint Your Truth, Jay's echo. Midnight Mass at St. Mary's, same church as the funeral, brought catharsis. Kneeling in pews worn smooth by immigrants' prayers, Brandon lit a candle for Justin, flame dancing. Elias beside him, Alex asleep in arms, Maureen opposite, scarf framing her brave smile. The choir's silent night swelled, and tears came, cleansing, communal. Back home, eggnog spiked. They played charades. Justin's old game, gestures wild. Elias mimed painting. Brandon guessed Picasso. Wrong, dissolving in laughter. Maureen's turn. A wobbly dance. Frank Sinatra. Alex clapped. And for a heartbeat, the room pulsed with presence. Justin's spirit in the joy. But betrayal's shadow lengthened. New Year's. Elias accepted the Chicago offer, tentative, 2-year contract. Trial run, he told Brandon over confetti cleanup. You and Ma can visit. Alex needs roots. Devastation hit like a derailment. Roots here. With us. Elias's eyes pleaded. I love this. You. But Victor's right. I'm adrift. Need to stand alone. Alone. Brandon's voice cracked. We built this together. And it's beautiful. But grief. It's a solo hike sometimes. Elias touched his chest. Heal here. Come find me. The fight erupted dawn. January. Alex down for nap. Maureen at chemo. Brandon packed Elias's bag himself. Fury trembling. Run. Then. Like Justin for me. History repeats. Elias recoiled. This isn't mockery. It's mercy. For all of us. Doors open. Remember, yours is slamming. Brandon hurled the journal across the room. Pages fluttering like wounded birds. Elias knelt, gathering them. Stay for Alex's birthday. February. Then. Goodbye. The door closed soft, but the slam echoed eternal. January blurred. Brandon bunked at Maureen's. Site work a numb grind. Therapy with Dr. Lena. Abandonment's your pattern. Break it. How? He rasped. Fight smart. Not fists, words. Show him you're steady. Valentine's. Brandon baked. Crooked heart cookies. Alex helping with sprinkles. Maureen's laugh weak but warm. Channel that twin fire. Bran. February 2nd. Alex's 3rd. A small party at the brownstone, now half empty. Elias's sketches ghosting walls. Brandon arrived early. Balloons in tow. Cake iced lopsided. Alex barreled into him. Unca, Dada come. Soon. Buddy. Lie tasted ash. Guests trickled. Neighbors. Elias's sister via Zoom from Chicago. Advanced scouting. Then Elias, suitcase still in hall. Face drawn. Couldn't miss it. The day unfolded magic. Piñata wax. Park chase. Cake smeared. As dusk fell, Alex conked out. Elias tucked him. Brandon waited in the kitchen, heart hammering. You're staying, he said. Not question. Elias turned, tears glistening. Called Victor. Turned it down. This. You. It's home. Relief crashed. They embraced. Sobs mingling. Climax of raw emotion. Betrayal burned to bridge. Why? Brandon whispered. Because Justin taught me, love's not leaving. It's crossing back. Spring renewed them. Maureen scans clean remission's gift. Brandon proposed co-parenting papers. Elias's ring, a simple band engraved, converged. Romance? In quiet intimacies. Shared glances over Alex's bedtime stories. Hands linked in park benches. A first kiss under cherry blossoms. Tentative, then torrent. Sealing not passion but partnership profound. But humanism's thread. Not perfection, but persistence. Victor faded. A footnote. Old wounds scarred. Not erased. Brandon painted galleries now. Forged in absence his debut. Twins eternal. One June Eve. Brooklyn Bridge Walk. Alex between. Hands held. Tell story. Unca. Once, Brandon began, Elias's eyes on him soft. Two brothers built a fort against the world. Summer's zenith baked the asphalt. But the bridge's breeze carried grace as Brandon wove the tale, embellished with capes and villains, Alex's eyes wide as saucers. Elias walked beside, fingers brushing Brandon's, a silent vow etched in sweat-slick skin. Below, the river churned toward the harbor, ferrying secrets to sea. This was their now, not erasure of loss, but alchemy, pain transmuted to purpose. Maureen's recovery steadied, her Victorian a haven of knit Afghans and chemo tales turned triumphs. You boys, she'd say, stirring soup, remind me why I fight. Sundays became sacred. Pot roast simmering. Alex finger painting Maureen's portrait, a wild-haired queen. Brandon and Elias debating marinades like philosophers. It was American as apple pie, flawed, flavorful, fiercely held. Work evolved too. Brandon's promotion to project manager came with a corner office overlooking the Hudson, but he traded perks for flex hours, home by 5 for Alex's big truck reenactments. Elias's freelance bloomed into a boutique agency, queer-owned, championing POC artists. His designs splashed on billboards from Bushwick to the Bowery. Justin's influence, he'd say, sketching late, Brandon massaging knotted shoulders. Intimacy deepened organically, no labels pinned. Their first night alone, Alex at Maureen's for a sleepover, unfolded like a slow jazz riff, wine on the fire escape, stars pricking the haze, Elias's lips tentative on Brandon's neck. This okay? Breath hot. More than. Hands explored, calloused from tools, inked from pencils, mapping scars and size. In bed, tangled sheets. It was revelation. Not fire, but hearth warmth sustained, vulnerabilities bared. Afterward, Elias traced Brandon's twin freckle constellation. You see him in me? Every day, a beat. Love you for it. Elias's smile, sunrise. Ditto. Fall painted the park in fire. Alex starting preschool, backpack comically large, waving by with a gap-toothed grin. Drop-offs became duo duty. Brandon hoisting him for a kiss, Elias snapping the milestone pic. But conflict's ember glowed, subtle, insidious. A gallery scout approached Brandon. Raw talent. LA showcase? Expenses paid. Temptation tugged. Sunshine deals. Escape from winter's bite. He confided in Elias over coffee. Steam curling. What if, for us, better schools, space. Elias's cup paused. Run now? After vowing roots. Not running. Building bigger. Ice shadowed. Feels like before. Justin chased dreams. You mocked. Now? The echo chilled. I'm not him. Us. Debate simmered days. Pros, sun. Stability. Cons, Maureen. Memories. Alex sensed. Clingier. Bedtime, please. Stay home forever? Culmination at Thanksgiving. Maureen's table groaning. Extended kin crammed. Uncle Pat exiled. Mercifully. Post-pie. Brandon announced. Staying. Here. This is the dream. Cheers erupted. Elias's foot hooked his under table. Anchor. Winter whispered redemption's close. Christmas. A tree topped with Justin's ornament. A painted star. Edges chipped but shining. Gifts heartfelt. For Alex, a train set circling the tree. For Elias, a custom easel. For Brandon, Elias's sketch, 3 figures on the bridge. hands linked. New Year's Eve. Rooftop party with neighbors, fireworks blooming. Alex's yawns epic. As midnight tolled, Elias pulled Brandon aside, snowflakes melting on lashes. Marry me. Not wedding commitment. Vows for Alex. The mess. Brandon's heart soared. Yes. Hell yes. The ceremony, City Hall. Spring simple. Maureen's witness. Alex ring-bearer with a velvet pouch too big. Judge's words. In joy and sorrow. Build together. Rings exchanged, steel bands. Etched bridges. Kiss sealed. Public. Proud. Tears salting lips. Life post-vow. Humanistic mosaic. Challenges persisted. Maureen's recurrent scare. Benign cyst. Exhale collective. Site layoffs testing Brandon's grit. Elias's agency hit by recession. But they leaned. Date nights at dive bars. Karaoke duets butchering Bohemian Rhapsody. Family therapy now quarterly. Laughter outweighing tears. Justin's anniversary. 1 year on Greenwood. Picnic spread, sandwiches. His favorite Merlot poured on earth. Alex. For now. Placed a daisy. Miss you. Daddy J. Brandon spoke. Forgave myself. Bro. Thanks to them. Elias added. We carry you. Rising. Hands clasped. Brandon's rough. Elias's fine. Alex's small. They walked out. Sun slanting gold. Years folded. Alex's first crush, a classmate named Riley. Handled with ice cream and hearts are brave. Brandon's solo show, echoes forged. Sold out. Elias's TEDx talk on queer legacy. Maureen's 80th, balloons. Bingo. Her toast. Twins forever. In spirit and spite. One autumn dusk. Bridge again. Alex. Pedaling a bike with training wheels. Brandon jogging alongside. Elias filming. Faster. The boy hooped. Wind whipping. Brandon glanced at Elias. Love etched deep as canyons. Worth every fight. Elias grinned. Every scar. A sun dipped. Silhouetting skyline. Alex braked. Turning. Story time. Once. Brandon began. Elias joining chorus. Two brothers. And in the telling. Legacy lived. Not in perfection. But persistence. Not in blood alone. But chosen bonds. Human. Flawed. Unbreakable. American as the river's endless flow. Toward whatever dawn breaks next. In the end. It wasn't happy or tragic. It was true. Redemption's arc bent not by force. But grace, mockery to mercy. Ties cut and retied. A child raised in light once dimmed. Justin's ghost smiled. Finally at rest.